We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Taste with you well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but you won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you're going buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals, a different day and a different time, but me, Mitch and Stu all together. I'm 1,894th in the Oasis queue now, so I will be disappearing into the ether to try and get a ticket of some description. But before I do that, I do want to read this out because we got a text message from one of the lads, Mark Byers, who is in the chat on a regular basis. He says, the first 30 minutes of yesterday's Amigos were nothing but realistic, honest and totally spot on. I have a feeling this show today will be the same with the addition of Stu's thoughts. However, the criticism we received from some of the chat yesterday baffled me. What do people want? Sugarcoating? You lads always do your best not to rock the boat. Example being my insistence a couple of weeks ago for you all to comment on Eels dancing at the stack when you really didn't want to. But now the window is slammed shut with frustration and disappointment. Those type of antics are rightly questioned again. However, there's still people criticising you lads who put your heads above the parapet rather than criticising the actions of the club CEO in this window. You've got Sky Sports News presenters, I'll keep nameless, now hiding behind the PSR excuse to stay in the club's good books. But how can PSR be that much of an issue when two £60 million plus bids have gone in for Elise and Gahey? I'm sick of hearing nonsense, excuses from elsewhere. But sadly, when you're a realist and honest and open like you guys on here, people don't like it because we live in a world where people don't like the truth being told. Keep doing what you do, never change. Your honesty on this show is the reason NUFC Matters is the most reliably informed NUFC-related channel on YouTube. Thanks for giving up so much of your time to detached expats like myself, informed on all things NUFC. That's from Mark Byers. Thank you very much, Mark. Much appreciated. So, yeah, Stu, what's your feelings, mate?
Well, they're not very good, are they? To be honest, it was, you've heard words like underwhelming, but for me, it was an unmitigated disaster. There's one thing that people don't like being lied to, and I feel that's what's happened to us as a fan base. We've been told that the PSL for this year would be better, that the Champions League money was there, that Adidas money was there was money to spend. The CEO came out on record and said so. And then if people are getting held accountable like Amanda was for her emotional outburst after the cup final, then when you have a CEO saying that this is going to be a transformative window, then we in good faith take that because there's nothing in the past that would indicate that wouldn't be the case. Now, I've done my maths. I know that there was money to spend. As Mark's just said in his thing there was a 60 or 70 million pound bid put in for who they deem to be the right players. Now, that's 130 million. So if I might as well get the elephant out of the room and talk about this bet because it seems to be getting people excited. As far as I'm concerned, there was a program that you did, an episode you did with Ben Jacobs during the week where he said that would spend £50 million. And everything that I knew, everything that we all knew everything that we'd been informed of. Then the videos from the CEO, the bringing in of Paul Mitchell, it all pointed to the fact that we were going for the Champions League again. And without being in Europe this season, there was a clear indication that that could happen with the right additions. But for me, the two words that summed up once that window closed yesterday, the two words were opportunity lost. And it's easy to criticise. It's harder to try and understand and get your head around it. And I always try to do the latter because it gives a more balanced look on things. And they could have quite easily spent the figure I quoted. I said it would be nearer 200 million. It was nowhere near. Does that make me wrong? Well, I'm saying that. But it doesn't make me wrong in being positive. It doesn't make me wrong in believing the money was there, excuse me, to spend. The situation we've got is when you've got people making these promises and they're not delivering. As I touched on before, the people from Newcastle are the most welcoming, the most happy, the most loyal people that you can meet anywhere around the world. But don't cross them, don't like them, don't piss on the back and tell them it's raining. And that's the feeling that a lot of people have got. I get at the end of the window where they felt they were getting held at a ransom for too long. And for me, it was amateurish behaviour. I think it was made clear, and Mitchell vouched for this, it was made clear to us 2 weeks ago it definitely wasn't going to happen. Yet our heart rules our head and still believe it could happen. And that was from a reliable source that we both know, and that person was correct. But when the whole fan base, especially the social media side of it, are on spiraling, what's wrong with this? We're saying something that could happen, and believe me, they're still trying to get Gay. We know that they bid for Alicia. We also know they went in for a right winger. So there was two players. It still doesn't excuse the CEO and the sporting director, as far as I'm concerned. These are the two people that are culpable for it. And if you take the claps, you've got to take the slaps. And it gave out the 2 to 10 window. Now, regarding this bet, I was travelling a lot yesterday. I think it was 20 hours in total from door to door, and I was on 3 different planes. So thankfully, I didn't get caught up in the hysteria of the transfer window. Then when I got to my destination, I'm with my son. And of course, I'm not going to say, look, I need to check NUFC Twitter to see what's been made up. I'd rather spend quality time with him. So he's off to work this morning. I've had time to catch up on the Amigos from last night. And I've seen someone in the chat in particular getting himself all excited that and getting too happy that the club haven't spent money on it. And that's the bit I always find difficult to grasp, how people can take joy out of something that affects a lot of people, because there's a lot of people affected by that. This wasn't the successful window. It was a dismal window, as we all know. But to take joy out of other people's suffering, I don't know. It says more about that person than it does me. Now, regarding the bet, I was willing to spend £1,000 of my own money because it was going to 2 good charities. It was going to the food bank and it was going to Dementia Matters. And I think they're very worthy causes. But no one would take the bet on. So as far as I'm concerned, if even 2 weeks ago I offered the same bet to anyone who, and name their amount, as long as the maximum was 1,000 for the charities, and nobody would then take that bet on. Nobody. So if no one wants to take a bet, you can't really say that you've won and the other person's lost. But that's just me being realistic and me stuck in real life. But what I am prepared to do, and what I am going to do is I'm going to transfer money into Steve Hastie's account. I'm going to transfer £300 in total. £100 was for the book that Derek Wright wrote and the signed one that he promised. There'll be £100 to give to Steve Hastie to give to the food bank. So that'll get doubled tomorrow for match day. So that's £200 there. And I'll also send money to Steve for the Dementia Matters, another £100. So I'll put £300 up for not winning because I put my money where my mouth is and other people didn't. And if I'm wrong, I'll put my hands up and say I was wrong. But it could have been so right. But on a positive note, I still believe we've got a squad and it's certainly a starting 11 that is good enough to get us into Europe and possibly even the Champions League. The only issue we have now is we've got players that know that their positions were up for grabs and they were looking to be replaced. Now, they do one of two things. They either just shrug the shoulders and just resign themselves to the fact that they're not wanted and that will automatically dip the performance, Or do they say, do you know what, I've been given another chance and grasped the nettle and go out and put a blistering performance in week after week? And they've got 4 months now to prove themselves. And that's the two right wingers I was talking about. They may well start Barnes and Gordon tomorrow.
Well, we've lost him. We've lost him.
Stu's connection's gone. Well, I tell you what.
I'm over here.
That's the measure. Oh, there you are.
Go on.
I was just going to say that's the measure of the man I'm very proud to call my friend, and that's why I'm prepared to back Stu anywhere, anytime, because that's what he does. He does put his money where his mouth is. God knows how many times and in God knows how many ways, and it always seems to be to the betterment of somebody else. So thank you for that, Stu. That's appreciated from all sides for sure. And money is going to charity.
And they win. Kind words and I appreciate it, really do. But we all support Newcastle. We all want Newcastle to get better. And there's been frustration on everyone involved, whether that be the fans, the manager, the coaching staff.
He's gone again. Worst possible time as well with me trying to get tickets and not being able to understand what's going on with the site. Unfortunately, I'm in the ticket section, but there doesn't seem to be any tickets left. But yeah, go on, Stu. Continue again, please.
No, I was just saying, I think there's blame, there's frustration all around. But we're in a position because we're not selling, and we haven't been able to sell. We haven't been able to generate money. And Eddie Howe alluded to that yesterday. We need to generate more money. So for me, that was a veiled dig at Peter Silverstone. There's no point in keeping digging out Paul Mitchell or Darren Eales. Their job is not to bring the money in. The money, the sponsorship, etc., the revenue streams, that comes from Peter Silverstone, who has remained quiet. Now, we can all be CFOs, we can all be sporting directors and sign this player and sign that player, and in our heads we can balance the books.
It's quite right.
Not having much luck. We're not having much luck with Stu when his internet connection.
I'm back. I'll be able to change the connection in a minute. What I was saying is, like, Paul Mitchell maybe has now realised that's the England transfer market he was dealing in. He left, and when he come back is different. The CEO hopefully has learned that you can't just come out with statements and try and hoodwink a whole fan base and then expecting no kickback from it, because it'll happen. You know, it's the trust, honesty and respect that we've all been brought up on. And we have to make sure that if we're saying something, we'll do as much as we can to deliver it. Now, is he doing the negotiations? I'm sure he'll be part of it. Is Paul Mitchell doing negotiations? I'm sure they'll be part of it. The two people that seem to get negotiations done better than anything else, and I still don't understand why they didn't wheel in anyhow speak to.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Every time he's in his flow.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. I'll wait till he's moved into the other room, because it's he's gone off now, so he's going to sort that out. Yeah, give us your views, Mitch. I've given up on Oasis tickets. I'm out of the queue again, and people are saying now we know what it's like being in the ballot, but so frustrating this today, I'm afraid. Go on, give us two reasons that I'm annoyed and upset now: the transfer window and bloody Oasis. But yeah, give us your views on how you feel now, mate.
It hasn't really changed much. But I'm now at the point where I'm probably over analysing, and I'm looking at different scenarios. I've had a couple of different scenarios put to us today and yesterday after Amigos. Craig Hope's article, which I'm sure we'll discuss at some stage, because I actually did have a couple of chats with Craig yesterday and today. It is a little more pointed and a little bit more revealing. One thing I had put to me today was, have they decided with the new PSR rule changes coming, the ones closer to UEFA, to say to Eddie, right, if it's those players or nothing and nothing happens, let's just take it on the chin. We'll have a fallow period, which will actually make us much better off in the next PSR period, in particular when the UEFA rules are applied. However, it's on your head, mate. It's that if it's these players are no one and no one comes in, then you've made those conditions. I don't think that if it's been done that way, I don't think that's hanging Eddie out to dry. But at the same time, I just can't understand why we've not looked to strengthen in certain positions when everybody around us has strengthened rather. And when they have strengthened, that means we're going backwards. I do think there's a lot more of this to come out. And so, but now all we can do as a fan base is dust ourselves off. We've got a match tomorrow. I'm glad we're not talking about PSR and transfer windows. It's back to supporting the team, back to focusing on the match. And I'm quite glad for that now. I've got one last dance with it in finishing off something for you tonight. And that will be my last dance with it for a little while. Because my head's battered. And I think that's a fair comment. If you look at some of the players that have been signed, I wouldn't want with just to be signing players for signing players' sakes. They would have to improve the squad significantly for me. That said, with Guy, if he had come in at 70 million, I would be wanting prime Baresi, which I'm quite sure he's not. And so, yeah, I'm still processing some of it. I'm still having some different ideas, many questions being sent to us. I'll not be able to answer all of them. I can't answer all of them because I don't have the answers. I can give you an opinion. And that's all I ever do is give an honest opinion based on what I know and bits and bobs. Had a very interesting chat with Craig. Hope today, I'm hoping to get him on the professionals during the international break with any luck. Yeah, so I think that would be great. Because I think that would be very revealing conversation to have down the line.
Keith Gray says he'll match £100. He put £100 in if Steve Hasty contacts him. So Keith, I'll give him a message and let him know. Yeah, I mean, it's just a proper downer for me. I've got to be honest. I'm still not really recovered from the transfer window. I stayed up till about 20 to 11 and then just switched the TV off. The only positive to come out of it was Ryan Fraser leaving, really, Stu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I joked last week about calling Shola the club mascot, but realistically, there's a pool of players there that's needed shifted on, even for their benefit, not just for our own selfish needs. And well, the end result tells you that there wasn't enough done. You know, we might have players who, like youth players, we're not the best youth team in the country, but we've been bringing in players of a certain quality now that should be targeted from lower division clubs. It seemed like either we're too difficult to do business with to come to a sensible solution, or there's been a lack of effort. And I hate to portion that at anyone without knowing the facts, but the results show that there was only 2 or 3 people moved out. And Ryan Fraser on the free, I'm sure it'll come out that we had to pay him some money as well. You know, like having to pay someone to leave. And so that's another victim of buying someone, but we didn't buy him, we got him for free, but giving someone a large contract. So I can understand if the answer was right, we're not just going to get someone in for the sake of it, it has to be someone that's going to improve it. And it failed, but it failed too late. And that's because we all know that the players are identified and there's a list, A, B, C, D, whatever, for each position that they've targeted. And for me, it just seemed to like stick on A, and the button wouldn't press to move on. And from the outside looking in, for me, the Crystal Palace chairman, I don't even want to name him. Although he's entitled to, it's his club. I think a lot of it was parading to the big six, saying, "Look, I'm your ally," and I still can't get my head around that relationship of where he thinks he can benefit from that. But it's his club, it's his player, and the only thing that could have changed is Guy could have put in a transfer request, because it was clear from many people, many reporters have come out with it. He was not just open to the move; he wanted the move. And so they've now got an unsettled player who really thought he was going on 2 or 3 occasions. They've then got to lose money on him in the next window. They'll lose money at the window after, then he's away for a free. And whether they've been stubborn or not, we've missed out at this stage. So ultimately, the whole window, for me, it was run amateurishly, and it's probably the nicest word I can think of it, where people are kings in their own kingdom and they think everyone should bow to them. Well, that's how every chairman thinks, and that's how we have to learn quickly. And if we've made mistakes this window, which we patently have, we have to start learning quickly from them, because I'll tell you something, over in Saudi Arabia, there'll be rumblings and they'll be asking questions. Well, the main question is why? What has happened to our investment? You told us that you could get the best director of football in, but he wanted to have the final decisions. He wanted to have this, he wanted to have that. He didn't want anyone else interfering. See you later, Amanda. See you later. Anyhow, from the conversation. And that all of a sudden he's brought someone in, he's put that much pressure on Paul Mitchell, who, bear in mind, didn't start until July. It's put a lot, within 2 months, they had to grasp everything and get him in. So I'm not defending him, I'm just explaining the other side of it. When it comes to negotiations, I think I had my say on the stack and I got slapped for it. Not physically slapped, but, the Twitter world slapped for it, for being negative about him singing at the stack. Great when things are going well. And when I say that, I mean, when we're doing well, I have no problem at all with the sing-song at Wembley. We're achieving something. But when we're in the middle of quite clearly not being able to draw the players in, let's not go down and get people for your own self-esteem. Because for me, it just looks like that Uncle Dickhead at a wedding. And there's no substance to it. Had he done it after signing Gay and then signing a right winger, and went in swinging and saying, we're delivering, we're on the move, everything I promised, look, we're still delivering, then again, it's acceptable. But I still can't get my head round how he's been given that much power. And as I say, I think in Saudi, they'll be wanting questions and they will hold people culpable for it. And I've said many times on this show, they'll give people enough rope and they'll give them enough support. And what they do with that, they've failed. And they've failed the ownership. And we can be as good as they've been in other aspects, which have raised praise. But don't tell people, buy the shirts, fill the stack out, go to the games, home and away, 3,000 away again. It could have got 5,000 on Wednesday night easily on a work night to support a team. These people have the right to ask, why you lied to us? Why did you lie to us? Why did you say that? And if you come up with excuses, oh, we couldn't get it over the line, that person, talk about it afterwards, because it costs you things. I've just spent 300 quid because I said something that didn't come true. I don't run a major football club and leading a fan base to one point where they know a transformative window means at least 2 high quality signings in. And with the sounds of it, everything was on one. They didn't even focus to try and get the second one in until it was too late. And it's unacceptable. So it's done. We can't change it. We still have a very healthy group of players in the squad. However, will they stay healthy? Will the suspensions come? Inevitably they will. Will the injuries come? Will the loss of form come? Yes, and it's just, if it's to the same stage as it was last season, we might as well forget it. If we have injuries like we had the season that we qualified the Champions League, we've got a sporting chance. And then come January, when people are shuffling around for the financial fair play and the PSR coming into that year, we will have money to spend. So let's see what happens. And now our job is, as it always is to support the 11 players representing us on the pitch. And what a nice game to get into it tomorrow, because we've got the same players that we had that beat them comfortably in the last 2 years. They haven't. I'm going to probably kick myself in the foot here, but Son is not the player he was. He always seems to turn up against us, but he's not the player he was. If we look at the 11 that we can put out tomorrow, it's more than capable of repeating what we've seen in the past couple of years. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. And the issue we've got is once people come back from the national games, they start playing, they start picking up a little niggle. That's when the problem starts. We're getting October and November. And I'm presuming we get ourselves past Wimbledon, we get into, I think that's the last 16 that gets us into, or the quarterfinals. I'm not even sure now how they've restructured it. But we're only a few games away from repeating a trip to Wembley. Now, the majority of these games are played whilst the other teams are playing in Champions League and European games. So it will tell you that they'll rest players. We do have a great chance to go in this, but we have to keep everyone fit, and it's a risk. It's a risk that we shouldn't be sitting here talking about today, because that should have been covered. And I think it's really short-sightedness. And I'm telling you now, it's something that Saudi, I can't speak on behalf of the owners, but I'd be very surprised if action isn't taken, because someone has to be held accountable for what's happened. Because when things have done well, when we've qualified for Europe, when we've won a Stella Cup, or when we've won a cup in Saudi Arabia, we can all come to the fore and say, isn't it great? But strength is, your real strength, and where you get your respect is when things aren't going your way and you come out and tell it as it is. And that's what I think Darren Eales needs to do. I think he needs to address it, but we know it'll be written for him. We know the questions will be staged, the answers will be prepared, and it'll be the same touch that we've had. Just believe me, I'm in charge. We're trying our best, and there'll be a list of excuses, because irrespective of what happens, they've failed to deliver what they promised. And now that puts more strain on anyhow. And I think the short-sightedness comes from, look at next season. If we're not in Europe next season, could anyone blame some of our star players for saying, well, we give you this year? That's why I said opportunity lost. We've got so much to lose if we don't do this properly, which we know in December, and get ourselves up there and go big in January.
Let's talk Craig Hope's article, because I can take Stu's optimism and enthusiasm, and he's always Mr. Positive. His 3-1 prediction tells you that. But ultimately, Newcastle haven't played well in the opening 3 games, but we've got 4 points and we're through to the next round of the cup, and that's all that matters. However, we aren't playing well, and the Craig Hope article was damning of certainly Darren Eales, damning of his involvement is the only way you can describe it in the eventual moving on of Amanda and Miedad. And for me personally, I think that that's very on the money. Seeing some people disagreeing and saying that Craig's not great and blah blah blah, but journalists wouldn't print stuff with that amount of information in without checking the facts and cross-checking the facts. So there's clearly some truth in that. How much truth in it, who knows? But I believe him. I believe what Craig's discovered there, and it adds up. Look at the way the team is playing. Look at some of the individuals within the team. Look at Joe Linton, who signed a contract for Amanda. Look at Anthony Gordon, who came to the club because of Amanda's persistence. And look at Bruno, whose relationship with Amanda on the field was very positive. And, who's to say that these people didn't come back from pre-season, these players, and were going, what the hell's going on? Because that's probably what was said, Amanda came in and was the face of Newcastle United. She is the person who, instigated that takeover, pushed the takeover through. And now we've got this situation where, she's not there anymore. And that upset the fans, but it looks like it could have upset the players as well, Mitch. And I don't think Craig Hope's fueled the fire. I think he's put a story out there which needs to be told.
The scenarios that Craig Hope puts forward are all scenarios that have been put to us in one way, shape, form or another, or ones that we've sat together and bounced around ideas and come up with very similar ideas. Okay, we've sort of softened it and we've hinted at it using veiled comparisons to sort of a Knight of the Long Knives, if you will. That's exactly what we were referring to when we use that phrase. There are a number of other very plausible and possible situations which are also equally plausible. However, when you look at where things have gone since June, it makes a lot more sense. And you're right, journalists don't stick their neck out like that unless they're very comfortable with the story. When it's a negative story, when it actually points fingers and names names, I think absolutely, he's comfortable. Now, I've had a chat with Craig over the last couple of days. One name that he mentions in the article that we discussed a lot is Jacobo Solis, who's the PIF head of investments in Europe. He's actually on the Amazon documentary on some of the video calls. Interesting character, ex-JP Morgan, financially very astute and very well respected. It's been suggested that ruthless, I think, is the word that I'll complete there for you, Stu, and absolutely correct. Along with his team, and there's an accountant as well whose name escapes us right now, because God, I've been bouncing so many around over the last couple of days. So I knew Craig was working on something. He really genuinely has stuck his neck out with this article. However, I don't see much of an immediate refruitment and anybody within the club getting upset about it. It also makes you wonder what the PIF view of their investment is at the moment. On the face of it, it's doing really well. It's tripled in value since the bought Newcastle United. You don't get that from no super saver account in a bank. And so, on the face of it, it's going really well. However, the nuts and bolts and the moving parts of a football club, which they well know because they have football clubs in Saudi that they own now, don't work like any other business and never will, but particularly one that's so ingrained with the fan base and the community and connected. And in terms of how things have progressed, we all expressed concerns whilst Amanda and Mehrdad and our football people, they brought a connection that just cold, black and white business type decisions don't allow. And with that gone, how would things react? I'm all for having a very, very, very rigid structure, well-respected structure, where there's accountability and you get the best people you can into those positions. I think we have that now. I think they did muddy the waters of that. And I'm sure some people got annoyed about that. Have they then hung the whole PSR debacle on them? That's one suggestion. It's a plausible scenario, but there are equally other plausible scenarios too. And this is what I'm still can't get my head around. There's a lot of very contradictory phrases being made about the same situation time and time and time and time again. Since the summer, PSR's a problem, but we can spend 75 million on a centre back. Well, PSR's clearly not a problem. You can't hide behind that. However, if you were to say to me, if we then had a fallow period where we didn't sign anybody and that'll make the next stage of PSR even better, and it's something we're willing to take a gamble on because my manager's willing to take a gamble on, and it's a collective decision like that, then fine. None of this feels like a collective decision. None of this feels like people are being involved because you've got the manager saying he's one step removed from transfers now. And that immediately torpedoes the concept that it's been a collective decision. And so we're still left asking more questions than answers. Craig Hope's article certainly provides very plausible answers to certain situations. Is he right on everything? Only time will tell. I do believe he's gone with that article honestly and from the heart. He's a Newcastle United supporter at the end of the day. He wants the best for the club. We all want the best for the club. And so I'll be interested to see how that pans out over the next few days. I tell you what, if the club have a go at Craig and maybe even ban him, then they're spineless. There's people in that room that are spineless. When they let Louise Taylor ask the question she's asking about Tonali, I'm sorry, and not do anything, that's just spineless. So let's see.
Yeah, I can't see him being banned. I think the silence is definite no. Stu, what's your thoughts on this article that Craig put out? I agreed with it wholeheartedly. I think he's done the right thing and certainly has lots of elements of truth, I think.
I think you've got to agree with what he said. It was an honest account, as it normally is.
Could Amanda come back, do you think, in any capacity, Mitch? Is it right? I mean, not as somebody who's a shareholder that's gone now, but I asked Tyne Pools to put out would you like to see Amanda Staveley come back as chief executive officer if it became vacant, if Darren Eales falls on his sword, or is asked to leave or sacked or whatever you want to call it? If there's a vacancy comes up, is Amanda coming back is something you would like to see?
That's exactly the kind of role I think she could fulfil with grace. It would let her do the touchy-feely, lovey-dovey stuff that she likes to bring along to it, to have interaction at all the levels of the club that she likes, but also to be there to be guided by executives who know better when it comes to the PSR rules, when it comes to certain football-related things. So yes, I could see it working. But somebody would have to go and vacate to allow that to happen. Another night of the long knives in reverse, if you will. But it would be interesting to see where PIF want to go with this. If they genuinely are monitoring and listening in and watching everything that's happening, they'll see the feedback of what's happened this window, and they can't be impressed. They can't be. because the risk is you've even got people now pissed off that they've bought merchandise. The merchandise we've been desperate to get away from Castoria, to get in Adidas. They've brought out yet another line with the club, and there's more to come round about Christmas time, I understand. And so, is this lack of action when people feel like they've done what they can to influence PSR? Hey, we bought the merchandise, we put money in the club coffers, we've done our bit, why aren't you doing your bit? That won't go down well.
What's your thoughts, Stu, on Amanda potentially coming back? I mean, I think she'd jump at the chance, but coming back into a role at the club to try and appease the supporters. I can understand people being upset like we are about no transfers. Buying the merchandise, etc. I still think is a positive, and I'm still going to support the team tomorrow. But ultimately, I'm annoyed that another window passes without the kind of investment we saw in the first 3 windows.
Yeah, regarding Amanda, I think it's fanciful for her to come back, because then that's like admitting you made a mistake. But my understanding was that her shares would be diluted, and she would still stay on in basically in the same role, but be a paid employee rather than an owner. And as in stays the face of the club for as long as it's needed, because when there was bad news to be delivered, she could be there. And what was always appreciative was what felt like sincerity and honesty. And I don't think Darren Neils has afforded the same trust. And that's not simply because of what's happened to Amanda. That I believe was whilst they were both still working together. So for me, it's got symmetry to Keegan leaving and saying, I won't come back and I won't work with them people. And whether Amanda walked or Amanda was pushed, it wasn't, as I said, it wasn't something that was pre-planned to leave as she did and when she did. So you either walk or push, but whatever happened, it was certainly a power struggle of sorts. And like I say, with the symmetry of Keegan, the only way I believe she would come back is if there was at least one, probably 2 people that we've mentioned in this conversation, or this show anyway, that would have to be exited. And that for me would be the CEO and the CFO, not the CFO, the commercial officer, CCO, Peter Silverstone. I think between him and Darren Neils, they've felt that Amanda's been too involved, too overpowering, restricted them from doing the role because she was a part owner and had ultimately the final say. And that I can get if that was the case, but at least if you're asking for something and you said you can do a better job, if that happens and it's happened and you don't deliver, that's where the blame comes to. So I don't think we'll unfortunately see Amanda back whilst those 2 are still in a position. Now, regarding my mathematics and the things before about spending the money, it's for me it tells you that the Man City case finalised yet and they're holding the powder for something. But if they knew that was happening and remember, the financial year will go up till we know it's June the 30th of next year. I think they could have been a bit risky because they've taken a risk in the wrong way now by not adding to it. I think they could have took a risk, spent the money more than what they thought because the new sponsorship was coming, whether it was going to be at the higher level because it opened up with Man City winning the case, or at the current level. Whatever happens, that would have brought extra revenue into the club, which would have more than covered the purchase of a player. So, or 2 players, the additional players needed. I think the decisions that had to be made have been made incorrectly, or with not enough. How do you say it? It was all fur coat and no knickers, and that's probably the best explanation I can give it. They've talked the talk, but they haven't walked the walk, and what they are accountable for now. So hopefully it gets resolved. We get a massive 3 points tomorrow, and everyone stays fit. But maybe we're hoping for too much. It's like writing lists for Santa Claus at Christmas, isn't it? This is what we need. I would like this. I want this. I want this. I want this. But we have to remain as positive as we can because it's not going to change. And the only thing that happens now is ultimately the reaction since some has been over dramatic. You know, we're not in a good place. We're not in a bad place, but we could have been in a better place. And I think that's where the frustration comes from. We're not going to get relegated this season. We're not going to suffer misery. We still have an achievable opportunity to win a cup competition. And we've still got a team and a squad. If they all stay fit, capable of getting to Europe. But something I referenced last week, if you're standing still in this league, you're going to end up going backwards. And we've just done exactly that. So that's the danger. It's put too much pressure on Eddie Howe. Let's see if there's any fallout. I think tomorrow's game will be quite pivotal because there's a 2-week break, isn't there, with the international window. So we can go into that in the best of moods, which I hope we do, because I'm here with my Tottenham supporting son, and it'll be a horrible week if they beat us. But or we can get turned over and the moods turn like it did on the Bobby Robson era. And that's when Newcastle become dangerous, which goes back to what I said before. We'll give you the loyalty, but don't lie to us. And I think that just covers it all now, Steve.
Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com. Okay, welcome back. The development outside the East Stand has taken a new turn since last night. The fence has been placed at the back of the East Stand, and some more signs have gone up on the fence, and there we go. CCTV in operation. I think that's come after people were talking about potentially walking into it, and it'd be a pity if it got damaged, etc. So I think the owners now acted by putting those signs up on there. But yeah, Mitch, I mean, this is just another comedy going alongside the poor transfer window for the club, isn't it? It's a farce which needs to be sorted out, but doesn't look like it's going to be sorted out, for tomorrow's game. And I still have a feeling that, we may see something parked there tomorrow, or a couple of things parked there from a scrapyard or something. I've got, it's got that kind of feel to it. This is a bit of a soap opera. There's the soap opera which hasn't quite run its course yet.
There's something else coming, and this is the farce of Newcastle United over history not owning the ground and the land that the ground is upon, or rather, to the point where we've obviously never really known exactly who owns certain bits around St James's Park. Steve's explanation of what's probably happened here last night on Amigos was very elegant and makes perfect sense. But now we seem to have a chancer who's happy to put the health of fans, access to the ground, and other things at risk, and is unabashed enough to put CCTV camera signs up. That's brass neck as well. Knowing fine well people are not going to be happy about the presence of that fence. It's ridiculous. It's ignorant. He's obviously trying to make a buck off the club. And me in that kind of situation, it's bully behaviour, and I dig my heels in with bullies like that. I wouldn't be paying them off in any way, shape or form. But surely there has to be an intervention here, because that puts the health and safety of a lot of people at risk on match day. That's a busy thoroughfare on match day. And they know it is. That's why they're doing all of this. And that's with no care or thought about any human level. It's greed. Pure and simple greed. And that always brings the worst out in people for me.
Yes, Stu, covered this last night. You've seen the pictures there. What do you make of it?
It screams of attention seeking. Someone not happy with their lot and wants a bit of publicity, because what's the old adage? There's no such thing as bad publicity, and that particular person will get it, whether it's positive or negative. Some people could back him. He's making a stand. It's his land. He can do what he wants with it, as long as it abides by health and safety. Because I know for a fact, if we decided, as when I say we, the club decided to put something there on their land, it would have to get certain planning permissions and stuff like that. So I'm quite certain the gentleman involved is doing it for his own reasons, but I don't think it's been thought through that well, and he's got to the stage now where it's difficult to back down. And it's petty. That's what it is. It's just for me, it's just attention seeking and pettiness, and there's more mature ways to solve an issue. If you want to sell it. But then sit and negotiate. Don't do. It's like Parrish. I've mentioned his name. It's his tactics. It's sort of his tactic. People want attention, and they'll do different things to get it. And whether he's got a legitimate case and he believes that maybe he's had enough of it and thinks it's not valued, there's better ways to go around things. And I don't think we should give him any more attention. And when there's a lot of people there, fence can get fell over, and I'm not suggesting people should do that, but it is, as Mitch said, it's a tight thoroughfare coming through there, and if a lot of that's blocked for health and safety reasons, a lot of people at the same time, it's quite possible that it could get damaged, and then that becomes another case, and then Newcastle fans are painted in a bad light, and it just seems to be no end of negative stories when we really should be sitting here celebrating a club record signing and then an exciting forward as well to take us to the next level. It just looks like it's been put on hold, fingers crossed, skinchies, and hope that we can get out of it. And this is just another story that is unnecessary.
It's another situation that Newcastle United have lost control of the narrative on, and that seems to be a repeating theme since the summer. that we lose the control of certain narratives. We lost the control of the narrative with Crystal Palace. We lost the control of the narrative with PSR problems. We're now, anything we do going forward here, there's a potential for Newcastle United to be painted as the bad guys in this. Mm-hmm. When it's that absolute tosspot putting a bloody fence up where he knows fine well it's dangerous. And he knows the impact it's going to have.
It gives them the publicity. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Got a good question from Chippers. He says, is Newcastle United too big for Darren Eales? Mitch?
I don't know. Genuinely don't know. What's his list of achievements in place so far?
Well,
that's eventually.
He keeps going on about Atlanta, doesn't he?
That's how he'll be assessed in Newcastle United. What have you done here? Don't give him monkeys about what he did at Atlanta. Really don't. And I have received a very interesting message today from somebody who's has worked in Atlanta. And let's just say he was struggling to find somebody who had a good word for him while he was over there. I find that very interesting. On the back of other information that's been made available and Craig's article today. I shared it with Craig and he confirmed that matched absolutely everything he'd been told.
What do you think about Darren Eales? Is this club too big for him, Stu?
Well, we can only go on what we see and what's been delivered. And at the moment, I'd be kind if I said the jury was out. I think there's been a big failure on his behalf so far as overall CEO of the company, as it is, rather than the club, of the Newcastle United Football Club, which is the registered company. He's the CEO. So has he let us down? Yes. Has he achieved? Is it too big for him? I think there's a lot of credence to the question. And could it be too big? Yeah. Let's get off the fence. I'll say it is too big for him. I think he's came in on a crest of a wave which anyone could have once that previous owner and previous manager had left. Once they had left, this was right pickings for things going well. And again, I like to look for analogies, and it's like Paul Gascoigne. When everything was going great, everyone wanted a part of him. When things gone well, people started leaving him. So we've had the great times. Now we have to show what we're worth. Not we. He has to show what he's worth. He has to show his mettle and start leading from the front, because that's what good leaders do. And you can't just keep coming out and waving. It's like, I don't know, the king in Buckingham Palace only going to waving at the people standing on the waiting for him when the sun shines. Where it's really, I'm not going up there. Can't be bothered to do that. Let's see if he can lead from the front. And as I touched on, the first easy wins, not easy wins, but the first big wins would be the sorting out the contracts of Isaac and Gordon, get them tied down, getting it announced. But if I had to answer the question honestly, I'd say yes, the job is too big from what we've seen to date. I think the job is too big for him.
I would agree. Tony Lister takes us to football. He says, all right, fellas, do you think teams are starting to learn how to play and set up against us? And are we becoming too predictable? And do we need to mix things up a bit more, Mitch?
To a degree. I think that's why we look more efficient with Willock in the team. I think he brings something that other midfielders don't to the party. I think we also need to decide on what our best wide pairing is. And also, we just need to raise our game this season. We haven't played well at all this season, really, except in patches against Forest. Yes, we showed fight against Southampton. We got away with it to a degree against Bournemouth. We certainly weren't at our best. This is an opportunity to show that we can click and put it together. Have we been worked out? Well, maybe that's why Eddie's willing to try and mix certain things up. So, to a degree, possibly, but I don't think we're playing exactly the same way that we have. Certainly last season to this. I think we're showing better flashes going forward, but at the minute it's only flashes. We need to be doing it consistently. It needs to be 20 to 30 minutes and a half, and make the most of it when we are. Take advantage of that dominance.
Mark Bayer says maybe the fence outside of the ground is for the pig graves to sit on. That's referring to Pete's tweets today, where he's trying to pass it off as PSR and all the issues that we've had. I would agree. I would agree with what Pete's trying to do. He's got a job to protect.
And there's 100% an element of PSR in every decision that we're making, more so with us than other people. We are hindered by a lack of outgoings. People keep saying, why can Chelsea spend? Well, have you seen how much they've sold? If you factor that in alone, that gives them a lot of leeway to spend. They're still doing what the hell they like with other things, and it's an absolute farce. But if you look at, why are Brighton allowed to spend? Well, they've sold. Why are West Ham spending? Well, they've got 100 million for Rice. Why are Brighton spending? Well, they've got 100 million for Casillero. And so it's that incoming side that hampers us. And if you look to the future with the new PSR regulations, we still got players on big wages. We've just got rid of one of them in Fraser, who really make a mess of the balance sheet when it comes to that wage bill percentage. And so you want to look at what hampers. Well, yes, those are things. You can equally say we are hampered by PSR and still say we should have been able to spend more in this window because there was leeway to spend within the current PSR rules. The two statements are not an either or. It is the longer this summer went on and the closer the close the window came, though, I think as a fan base, we got sick of hearing that. As a fan base, we worked out there is a degree of hiding behind this going on, and it's hiding what's really going on behind the scenes. We couldn't put a finger on what was going on. And it's disappointing that it's gone that way. But yes, PSR is an issue. And again, like I said, there's one possible scenario to accept a lack of spend in this window helps the next PSR period immensely, because as the new PSR rules kick in, we'll also be losing another couple of those players on high wages as their contracts run down, and so therefore we get a bit more wiggle room on wages too. Why was the Guy deal a goer? Was because that probably spent the spare cash, a lot of the spare cash we had, and he was able to fit within our wage structure, even with an increase from what he's on at Palace. He was again that trying to look for unicorns in a world of zebras, and so to just hang it on PSR is hiding behind it. That's a very long-winded answer for that.
Okay, there is another question which I wanted to cover, and it's about Yasser. He says, do you think Yasser will be over tomorrow and during the international break to review the shit show of a window, Chipper says. And Stephen says, if the main man's coming over to watch the game, I'd expect a meeting. PIF will not accept shoddy business, but until we know 100%, we should come to our own conclusions and blame X, Y, or Z. So do you think we'll see Yasser come over, Mitch?
He was supposed to be, but I don't know whether that's not happening now because we've not had signings. He seems to enjoy to come to the Spurs game for reasons known only to himself. We'll know fine well if he's there tomorrow because there'll be a media circus around it. That's for sure.
Stu, what do you think? Do you think Yasser will turn up, and do you think he will have a meeting to discuss the the transfer window that wasn't?
I think there'll be at least two people hoping he isn't coming straight after the recent events, possibly three. But I don't know if he is coming or not. As I say, I'm not in the Middle East, and it's difficult to call Saudi Arabia from where I am on a company phone. So unless it's for a client, and it wouldn't be. So it would be a good touch if he did. It would show, look, I'm your chairman. I'm here. And I think it'll give the supporters a boost to see him, that he's there to show his face, a bit hands-on. And I think we can all then trust that decisions and questions will be asked, decisions will be made on the strength of the answers. So I would like to see him there. I'd like to see him there more often. But there's no way he's allowing people to run one of the many multi-million-pound businesses that the PIF own. And it's not just the failure to spend the money, it's the bad publicity that's come with it. And those two things aren't normally accepted from the PIF, failure and bad publicity. And we've managed to achieve both. So we'll go back to the word accountability. I think if he does turn up, then we might see some action. With the previous question where I got cut off was, have we been sussed out?
I couldn't remember the question, and I'm dealing with about three things at this end, which is a bit of a nightmare. But
no problem.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the question, so that's why I didn't ask it.
Right, no problem. To a point, yes, but that means we've got identity, and we're not going into games hoping everything clicks. We'll know that we can click. And Man City have got identity. Liverpool have got a style of play. So they've been sussed out. The key is to stop them, and that's up to our players. And the type, high tempo, high press that we play, it needs everyone to be at peak fitness for it to be successful. And at the moment, they're clearly not. But that'll come in the next few days, the next few weeks. The fitness will increase dramatically from a little break to where we need to be. So for the immediate future, I'm not bothered that people are sussed us out. I think they're more sussed out the personnel when they play for us. Without mentioning people by name, there's someone that will constantly only use one foot, and I could be watching in any country in the world. There's 52,000 people on the ground knowing that when he receives the ball, he's only going to do one of two things. One is pass it back, the other one's cut inside. And that's where we're being sussed out, because having the ability to hit the wings, I know Anthony Gordon likes cutting in, so does Harvey Barnes, but they will go to the byline as well. And you've got to have the defender guessing, because if not, we're only working at 2/3 potency up front. And that's why I prefer Murphy, because although he can cut inside, he does like to get to the byline and get his foot around the ball. And it just gives that defender an extra thought. So has our style of play been sussed out? I'd say, of course it has. But is it stoppable? Not if we play to the best of our ability, but we need everyone fit for that. But I do think there's certain personnel where their limitations have been exposed, and that's easier for opposition managers to play against.
Okay, football now. Newcastle obviously play Spurs tomorrow. Has Tonali done enough for a start, Mitch?
It's a good question. You know what? I think I probably would start them and tell us, give us your best 70 minutes. Run yourself into the ground. Enjoy the welcome and the plaudits and feed off it. And give us your best 70. I think that would be a very interesting way to start the game. Give everybody in the stadium a boost, because the love he was shown at Forest, it was obvious watching on the telly here. At the end of the game, he seemed quite emotional, actually, for somebody who doesn't come across as an emotional individual. And I think that's... this is the irony in the middle of all the angst. This is the kind of thing we can do when we pull together. We are constantly amazing and curious as a football club. At times we're our own worst enemy, and yet through all of that we tend to find a way to, when it really matters, to come together and get that siege mentality going. And not care about the rest of the world and just care about us and ours. And I think that would be a very interesting way to get St James's bouncing from minute one, would be to have Tonali in from the off.
Yeah, Tonali, I mean, he came back, didn't look out of place, albeit against a weakened Forest team, Stu. But yeah, I mean, I would start him tomorrow. I would drop Joe Linton. I don't think Joe Linton has played well in the first 3 matches. He got a goal already, but I don't think the last couple of games he's played particularly well. I would play Tonali, Bruno, and Longstaff tomorrow. I would play Longstaff. I wouldn't play Joe Linton.
I can get why you're saying that, Steve, but the experiment with Longstaff on the left-hand side last season didn't work, and that led to a lot of goals getting conceded. And he's a willing player. You play anywhere he's asked to do. But I think sometimes we've got to look and think it's going to be a straight choice. Joe Linton will play, Bruno will play, and does he start Tonali? I think the head would say, knowing how well he does, he'd probably start Longstaff as a reward for his loyalty, the fact he scored the penalty, he was the first one to congratulate him, etc. And I think you start Longstaff just to show, look, he's back, we haven't just binned you straight away. And that art of man management, and then bring Tonali on because he was blown out his backside before half time on Wednesday, which is understandable. But this is a different game, as you said. This isn't Forest reserves. This is Tottenham's A team, and we have to be at our best. And I think Tonali coming on midway through the second half could have a great effect on the crowd if it needs lifting, or it could just help get us over the line. I think that would have a bigger effect than taking him off. Have I paused?
No, we can still hear you.
I paused.
No.
That's I think you'll start Longstaff and bring Tonali on. But I get it with the display that's going to be there for Tonali. It would be great for him to start and get the crowd on side initially. But I suspect he doesn't pick the team up to please the crowd, and the crowd will always do their job and back them anyway. So is this really in the face of adversity because we didn't get the transfers we wanted? Is that worst that's happened to this club in the years that we've watched it? But with Tonali, I think we also don't want to put too much pressure on him, expect another performance immediately as well, because he will have his up and downs in the first few games. So start Longstaff, bring Tonali on 60, 70 minutes. As I say, either boost the crowd or it'll be the swap that we needed rather than what could be detrimental to Sean by not starting him. So long answer to the question. I think he won't start Tonali tomorrow.
Okay, what's your feeling on the back four then tomorrow, Mitch? Who do you think will start tomorrow in the back four?
I think you'll start Tino, Kraft, Byrne, and Hall. That's the way I think you'll go. I could make an argument for bringing Kelly in at left back. I could see an argument for playing Trippier. But I think that's the way you'll go.
Stu?
Well, before the Bournemouth game last week, we're talking about suggesting the rotation, not dropping and things like that. And I think the teams will be harder to pick this season because he will want to get the best out of the squad and keep people on side. And even at the moment, we've still got like 15 people, I would say at least 15 people who, if they started, you wouldn't be disappointed. They'll think, right, that's the best you can get. Then we've got 2 centre-backs and centre-forward to come back and maybe some additions in January. So we've got a squad and trying to pick it now. I guess there's been a big push towards Trippier where they've got their arms around him, and the fans were fantastic to him against Bournemouth. He played on Wednesday. Are they just going to go down the line that we're building your fitness up, or will they look at this and say, well, you played the midweek, so Tino's back for the weekend? You know, we're just resting people and getting people back up to full fitness. You have to look at the opposition, and we're capable of doing that now with the pool of players we've got. It's not like last season. I think Eddie referred to this yesterday as well, where the team was picking itself, and that's always dangerous. And there was people playing who were injured, and now we've got choices, and it's just making the right decisions. So we know the right decisions haven't been made from above. Eddie Howe can prove he can make the right decisions and get the team on the pitch to win. The opposition we've got tomorrow, Tottenham, they've got a lot of pace up front if they pick the right formation, and they'll look to exploit us because they'll expect us to be pushing on. They'll expect the crowd to be behind the team. They'll expect a high press. So to the one way around the high press is to put the ball forward. So I think we've got to be careful with the defenders that we've got to make sure we have pace, at least on both flanks. And that for me would say then Tino and Kelly would be the two I would choose.
Okay, question in from James. He says, do you think they haven't spent, so the idea of a new ground is more palatable for sponsorship and match day profit, Mitch?
I don't think that's related to them not spending in this window. I think there's other things driving what's going on with the ground. That's really not terribly connected to the playing side of things. That's what we're CFO's in to do. Or
CCO.
CEO, sorry, yeah. And I don't think it's related to non-spend here. I do think like farcical things like somebody putting a fence up on a bit of land outside the ground, which is an inconvenience, is the kind of thing they could equally point to, that they don't want to deal with this shit anymore. So let's up sticks and move. So I think that's not an unreasonable way to look at it, but I don't think it's connected.
No, I don't think it's connected either, but there is a case for the sponsorship match day profit. I understand there's a need for that, but you're in a position where I think the new ground, or of a new ground, is gathering more support by the day, and I think it'll be a lot more welcome now than it would have 2 or 3 years ago. But ultimately, what we've got is ignoring that there's been decisions there's been failure that's happened in this window. We still can't get away from the fact that we've got owners that have financially provided the money when it's been available, without really questioning it and allowing people to do their role. And that's why we've rocketed from now on bottom of the league to within 2 years to be in the Champions League, 18 months of the Champions League, and still the year after to only just miss out on Europe after the worst injury season ever. And even now still talking about being in Europe. I think the owners' commitment's there, the money's there, and it's you've got something in the middle. But we knew that it would plateau at some stage. We knew this would eventually come. The meteoric rise can't keep doing it as much as we'd wanted to. On a open playing field, we probably could have, because they would have spent the extra money. But we knew there was potholes and there are going to be potholes in the road. But the road will lead us to success. But this pothole feels more like a crater at the moment, and it's the frustrating part is it's been their own self-doing, and bragging about transformative windows before the windows closed without any signings of note to add to the first team. It's naive, and really it needs to be held accountable. But I don't think they're linked, but I do think they could have bought extra players and used the sponsorship money that is to come. And they haven't. There's been curious decisions made that it seems like they've been made out of stubbornness rather than out of what's best for the club. And that's the frustrating part as well. And things like that need to be questioned.
Good question from Phil. He said, which of the young players on the fringes do you think could provide a bit cover if needed? Do you think Sanusi could be one of those players?
Well, it's interesting he's not been sent on loan like some of the others. Some of the others are
do a lot there, Mitch, aren't you? You're asking Shola to do a lot there, aren't you?
Well,
more than 2 loans in a window.
More than what, like actually do his job. Rather than fill in for Wilson on tokens. Interesting who watches this show. I've just had it suggested that the chairman is definitely flying in tonight.
There you go. That must be ominous for certain people, and it might not be the first time he's shit himself in front of PIF. So we could be in a situation where they will want answers, and I'm glad that if you've got confirmation, the chairman will be here. For me, it shows they are very much hand-on, and the suggestion from other people or certain people that have said that they're not interested, they don't want it to succeed. Newcastle are the highest profile football team owned by the PIF, and we are the jewel in their crown. And the fact that, as I said earlier in one of the questions earlier today, they'll want answers, and the bad publicity and the lack of improvement over this calendar year won't sit right with them. And you can't blame the manager for getting the best out of the players that he's got to his availability, especially last season when there wasn't much availability of players to finish the seasons we did, and very nearly, and we should have been in Europe, but so close to doing it. I think he's got so much credit in the bank. And the questions that will be asked by the chairman, by the chairman, will be to the CEO and the back room, not the back room, but the ones with the acronyms for jobs, CEOs, CFOs, sporting directors, whatever. These are the people that will be in the meeting, and for some it won't be nice, but you have to be accountable for your own success and your own failure. And again, use the phrase, take the claps, take the slaps. There's things like there's going to be a slap the size of Kenny Everett's hand coming tomorrow, and it'll be deserved. And
it'll all be done in the best possible taste, though.
Yes, I was waiting for you. That's why I paused. I know with your screen off, you swapped your legs over, didn't you? You crossed your legs, but no one can see that. No, but it will be. And like I say, I know and I don't want to keep repeating myself. They will give you enough backing to succeed and enough rope to hang yourself. And it looks like he's done just that. And he's coming in tomorrow. There'll be, like I say, it'll be done in a calculated way. And trust me, these people will be able to smell bullshit when they hear it. So there has to be a strategy in place and a forward-thinking plan that's going to convince Yasser Al-Rumayyan he's got the right people doing the job for his club.
Another question I'm going to ask you guys before I get your predictions again on the match tomorrow is, Eddie Howe, is he completely blameless in this transfer window? I've defended Eddie Howe. Just reiterate, I guess, what you said last night, Mitch, because you and I disagreed on this, but I know not everybody watches the Amigos who watches the professionals. So just give us your thoughts on it. Is Eddie Howe blameless in the transfer window?
If it is true that he said, I want player X and no alternative, and has been unbending towards considering options, yes, he's part of the problem. They're all part of the problem together. Because the whole point of having a sporting director and a head coach is that they should be able to work together on things and find agreements and points of agreement and points of compromise. We don't know if that's the case, but that's one plausible scenario that's been put forward. That he said it himself, the list of players they were looking at was quite short. And if he's been unbending on that and not been willing to listen to other options, and then, as I said much earlier on in the show, they've turned around and say, okay, you can have this window your way, but if it doesn't go wrong, it's on you. Has that happened? I don't know. It's certainly a possibility.
On a different level, Mitch, I've had meetings like this, and especially with high-ranking Saudis, and they won't say much. They'll sit there and it'll be quite unnerving for those on the other side of the table. And it'll be, okay, tell me. And you'll be able to tell by the tone of the voice, the amount of stuttering, the dabbing of the brows, the repetitiveness, the slurring, all of that will come at the phone and think, this is not the man I want. Or it'll be, this is what we've done, this is why we've done it, this is what we're going to do. And they'll get pardon the pun, a stay of execution. But they really will have to deliver. And off the field, they have to deliver. And I don't think Eddie Howe's blameless, but it was made clear by Darren Eales, by Paul Mitchell, that this was their role. This is what they had to do, and this is what they were going to do. And as we all know, they didn't fit the bill this time. Will they get another chance to put it right? I would imagine Paul Mitchell would, because he come with a fantastic reputation and he's been there and done that, got the T-shirt. Darren Eales is now getting an opportunity to forge his own or enhance his own reputation outside of the States, and his first big rehearsal he's failed. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. But as long as we get on to winning the games, I'm trust me, Yasser Al-Rumayyan will be able to get his ship in order quicker than and more uncomfortable than what people would like.
Okay, Stu, give us your prediction for tomorrow's game then.
Well, obviously I've done 3-1, and I've also had a bet on 4-0. I think we're going to blitz them again, and they'll come with a certain sense of trepidation after what's happened the last 2 times. And we're talking about, well, I was talking about their pace up front. We've got pace up front as well. And with them like to play a high line, we like to play a pressing game. It could be a bit of basketball game. It could be absolutely fantastic for the neutral to watch. But I just think that we'll get the first goal. Isaac will get the first goal. He's due one. And then we'll go nap. They'll be thinking, oh, it's going to happen again. We'll be thinking it can't happen again. And we'll win 4-0.
Sorry, I was just distracted there. Everton were 2-0 up with 3 minutes to go, and they've just gone 3-2 down.
Get
They
in.
won the ball in the sixth minute of added on.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, right. Hey, you could be an Everton fan. We've got loads to be happy about.
Exactly.
Great stuff. Oh,
Brilliant.
Mitch, give us a reminder of your prediction.
The dice said 1-0 to Spurs, I think, and I think I went for a squeaky 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I went for a draw as well. That has been the professionals tonight. Great show. Back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock after the match with George and his worst 11, and then back with the fans forum on Monday. Take care, lads.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good weekend, Stu.